Having set the stage with an overview of the profound shift underway, let's pivot to the core tenet that will guide our examination of the global media transformation. In this section, we will dive deep into the transformation of global media driven by technology. The contemporary media landscape is undergoing a profound metamorphosis, largely shaped by the role of technology. Our journey begins with a fundamental understanding of the key concept that underpin this transformation: media convergence, digitization, and the evolving nature of communication worldwide. So the first one is media convergence. That is a buzzword in today's media discourse, refers to the coming together of previously distinct forms of media, like print, broadcasting, and digital, into a single interconnected entity. It is a phenomenon that is blurring the lines between traditional media channels and ushering into an era where information is accessible across various platforms. And the second one is digitization. That is another pivotal concept. Encapsulate the conversion analog information into digital forms. This transformation is changing how content is created, stored, and distributed, making it more accessible to global audience. We should explore case studies that shed light on the phenomenon. Consider how the advent of smartphones revolutionized the accessibility of information, allowing users to seamlessly transition between roles as consumers and producers of content. This dual capacity has profound implications for journalism, marketing, and social mobilization. Let us consider the smartphone, a device that has become nearly ubiquitous across continents. This compact tool of technology has redefined the flow of information, erasing borders, merging the roles of content consumers and producers. Users from diverse cultural backgrounds can now engage in media consumption and production with competent ease. This has a pivotal impact on journalism, as it democratizes news creation, on marketing, as it allows transnational brands to personalize outreach, and on social mobilization, as it empowers grassroots movement to attain a global echo. The international communication perspective invites us to ponder how do varied cultural frameworks shape the creation and reception of converged media content, and in what ways does the convergence influence cross-cultural interaction and the dissemination of cultural norms. For example, the first one is about creation. Cultural frameworks significantly influence the creation of media content. Producers of media content often tailor their material to reflect, resonate with, or appeal to specific cultural value, norms, and expectation. For example, a streaming service like Netflix creates or adopts shows to cater to different regional audiences, integrating local cultural elements to ensure relevance and engagement. The second example is reception. The reception of converged media content is equally shaped by cultural frameworks. Audiences interpret and respond to the media based on their cultural backgrounds, which affect their understanding, enjoyment, and critique of the content. For example, a comedy show from one culture may be received with enthusiasm in its home country, but may be misunderstood or even found offensive in other cultures due to difference in humor sensibility. As we turn to this slide titled the digitization paradigm shift, we are confronted with the seismic shift in the media landscape brought about by the digitization of newspapers. This is not merely a shift in consumption habit, it is a profound reshaping of the global publishing landscape, a shift that has far-reaching cultural implications. The transition from the print to digital is a global culture shift. It is a democratization of access, allowing readers from every corner of the globe to engage with a vast array of digital content. The shift transcends the elimination of physical distribution and challenges the traditional locale-centric publishing model that have long dominated our understanding of news dissemination. In this context, we must critically assess the impact of global digital media accessibility on the cultural sovereignty of a region. How does the ease with which content across borders affect a region's ability to control its own cultural expression? For example, consider the scenario where a viral news story from a major Western publication eclipses a significant local story with a developing country. This is not an isolated incident. It is indicative of a larger trend where digitization can inadvertently dilute a region's cultural sovereignty. We must also address the dichotomy of homogenization versus diversity. The global reach of digital media brings into question the preservation of local narratives. Can regional voices maintain their distinctiveness, or are they subsumed by the homogeneous content from a few dominant sources? This ubiquity of content can undermine regional voice and perspective, relegating local narrative to the foliage of the global stage. The digitization of content presents unique challenges to local news. There is a probable competition for attention where local news outlets, in an attempt to maintain digital engagement, may increasingly adopt fragmented news model. This approach, reminiscent of content farm, focusing on short, entertaining stories and viral clips, which may erode the depth and quality of traditional journalism. Furthermore, local news is grappling with economic pursuit exacerbated by the free accessibility of worldwide content and the redirection of advertising revenue to global platforms, such as Facebook or TikTok. The economic model that once sustained local journalism is being appended, assassinating the exploration of new funding models, such as subscription service, public funding, or initiative content strategy that cater to local needs while engaging with the global discourse. The cultural impact of digital content proliferation cannot be understated. As digital media becomes the norm, the nuanced content-specific reporting that is the hallmark of local news is at risk. We must therefore emphasize strategy that support the sustainability of local news. Strategy that balance the global reach of digitalization with the preservation and flourishing the local cultural diversity. In conclusion, as we navigate the digitization of media environment, it is imperative for media professionals, policymakers, and audience alike to understand the delicate balance between global digital reach and local cultural preservation. We must strive for a media ecosystem where digitization is harnessed not just as a tool for connection and information, but as a means to preserve the rich diversity of our local culture and news landscape. Our exploration continues as we delve into the profound influence of Stu Hall's work on representation within the context of global media. Stu Hall, a luminary in culture studies, has left an indelible mark on how we understand media representation. In this segment, we will examine Stu Hall's seminal work on representation and unpack its relevance in the contemporary global media landscape. Representation theory, one of the core tenets of culture study, provides us with critical tools to dissect how media construct meaning and shaping our perception. Representation, in its dual meaning, extends beyond visual depiction. It involves the attribution of meaning to depict things, events, and people. This dual meaning reveals the significant gap between the genuine meaning of an event or object and its representation in the media. As we dive deeper into Stu Hall's theory, we will grapple with critical perspective on how global media outlets create narratives that impact our understanding of the world. Stu Hall's work challenging us to question the narrative we encounter daily and to recognize the power dynamic at play in the representation of different cultures, communities, and events. Now, let's delve further into Stu Hall's representation theory and explore its significance in the realm of international journalism and global communication. Hall's theory compels us to analyze the dual meaning of the word representation. It involves not only visually depicting things, but also attributing meaning to them. The duality underscores a critical gap between the actual meaning of an event, object, or culture and its representation in the media. This gap is not merely an academic abstraction. It has real-world consequences. It shapes the narrative we consume and the way we perceive the world. The global citizen and critical thinkers is crucial to analyze how media construct these narratives and the implication they hold for our global understanding. Stu Hall's representation theory equips us with a tool to critically dissect media messages, exploring underlying power structure, bias, and ideologies. It calls upon us to question what is the portrait, how it is portrayed, and why. This critical perspective will serve as a guiding line throughout our exploration of global media transformation, professionalization, and cultural identity. As we move forward, let's carry this foundational concept with us. They are the background upon which we will build our understanding of the complex interplay between technology, media, and culture. Please imagine these two different representations of a public figure like Jeremy Corbyn or Donald Trump. Which one do you think is the most accurate? But there is a twist. It is not about finding a single correct meaning. It's about who creates this representation and why. This forms the basis of Stu Hall's representation theory, which we will explore in this segment. Let's start with the basic. Representation is a cornerstone of media study, traditionally focusing on how media reflect reality. It mentions how accurately media represent reality. However, Stu Hall challenging this idea. He pointed out that this approach assumes there is a single fixed meaning to everything against which accuracy can be measured, but that is not the case. Take Brexit, for example. There are numerous facts associated with it, but a concept meaning doesn't exist in the real world until it represented in the media. The official Vote Leave campaign spent more than £2.7 million on targeting advertising at Pacific group of people on the Facebook, helping it to win the 2016 Euro referendum. The media literally give meaning to the event, creating different meaning based on how they represent them. So, representation theory, a still whole invention, is about understanding that representation isn't an afterthought, it's a constitutive force. It means that something doesn't have a fixed meaning until it's represented. In essence, media representation are reflection of pre-existing meaning. They are the creator of meaning. So now, who has the power to create meaning? In today's digital age, it's primarily the mass media, those who control the narrative. This means that media organizations have immense power to shape our understanding of the world. Think about how you perceive public figures like Jeremy Corbyn or Donald Trump. Those perceptions are largely shaped by the media. Ho argued that the media control over meaning-making give them significant influence in society. This influence is wielded by the elite, often wealthy, white, straight men, who hold the positions of power in the media organizations. They have the ability to fix certain meaning to the real-world event. The consequence of this is that stereotypes are generative due to limited representation. We often see this with ethnic minorities, LGBTQ individuals, and women. Media representation, when repeated over time, can narrow society's perception, leading to naturalized stereotype. But not all audience blindly accept this kind of representation. Stu Hall introduced reception theory, which suggests that audience can reject this kind of idea if they disagree. The key is for audience is to interrogate the text, considering who made it, why, and what purpose it serves. By doing so, we can challenge stereotype and combat social alienation. So, Stu Hall's representation theory reminds us that media doesn't just reflect reality, it shapes it. It also emphasizes the importance of critical analysis and understanding who control the narrative we consume. There are two examples. The first one is about algorithm and representation. Let's consider how YouTube algorithm might privilege certain types of content over others. A documentary on indigenous culture, rich in content and depth, may receive far fewer recommendations, compared to a sensationalized travel vlog showcasing the same community. The algorithm preference for the high engagement content transform the nuanced poetry of the other into a mere backdrop for entertainment, stripping it of its cultural gravity and reinforcing stereotype. The second one is about constructing the other. Facebook newsfeed, for example, can create echo chambers that reflect the distorted visions of cultural reality. A study by the algorithmic justice league has shown how AI systems, including these used by the major social media platforms, can perpetuate bias. This algorithmic amplification can end up constructing a reality where the culture are either negatively stereotyped based on the engagement metric rather than accurate representation. I use this example to illustrate how algorithms have a significant impact on cultural representation. They often prioritize content that perpetuates a narrow view of the other for the sake of engagement and profit. As we transition from our critical examination of cultural bias and discrimination within the digital sphere, we stand at the precipice of another transformative force in global communication, the phenomenon of platformization. The journey thus far has equipped us with the necessary critical lens through which to view the intricate interplay between technology and culture. Now, we must shift our gaze to the platforms themselves, which have become the very infrastructure of our digital life. Platformization is not just a technological innovation. It is a cultural shift that reconfigures power, reshape economic, and redefine participation in the digital realm. As we step into the next section for our discourse, we will unravel how this platform influences global market, cultural exchange, and the social dynamic. We will explore the profound global impact of these platforms and their role in both offering new opportunities and presenting new challenges. The thread of cultural identity that we have untangled today do not end here. They weave into the fabric of platformization, questioning how this digital architecture can either mitigate or amplify the bias we have discussed. As we look ahead to the next section, let's carry forward the critical perspective and insight gained, applying them to our understanding of platformization and its pervasive impact. So now, let's move to the practice part. Today, we just explore Stu Hall's media representation. Please watch a 5-minute video of representation and the media by Stu Hall, and also focusing on the concept of representation and how media attribute meanings. Afterwards, answer these questions.